Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Acushnet School Committee meeting of Tuesday, April 5th. We're going to call this meeting to order. This meeting is being audio and video recorded for future cable broadcast. Please silence all cell phones for the duration of the meeting, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So we'll start with the approval of minutes, payroll, and warrants. If I could request a motion of approval, please, of the minutes of March 8th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. If I could request another motion, please, of approval of the public hearing minutes of March 8th, 2022.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And finally, approval of payroll and warrants. If I could request a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. And moving into our delegation portion of the meeting, do we have anyone signed up? No, not this evening? Okay, great. So we will move into new business, and I'll hand it over to you, Dr. Bailey, for the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. First up, I'd like to call to the podium the assistant principal from Ford, Kyle Gallivan, with student Grace Slavinsky, who will be recognized tonight by Mr. Gallivan. It's all right.
So, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the school committee, Dr. Bailey, and the Acushnet community. At the start of this year, the schools launched a new initiative called Lexia. And the 5th grade students were assigned to Core 5, which is their elementary version. And the 6th to 8th grade students were given Power Up. Both programs are adaptive. It looks at what the students' needs are, and then it fills in the gaps. So whatever they have missing, this program will fill in those gaps. They do have the opportunity to do it during our WIN block or during ELA and social studies. So this year we have one student so far that completed not only the Core 5 program, but also the Power Up program. And she's a 5th grader. So
Wow.
it's excellent. So I don't have the data on Core 5, but I do have it on Power Up. She completed 671 units in 30 hours, which equals about 3 minutes per unit, which normally should take 10 to 15 minutes. So she finished these units like that. This is an exceptional achievement, especially when we take into consideration she's in 5th grade. She is in 5th grade. So tonight we recognize Grace as that first student to finish both of them. At lunch today I asked her, Grace, how would you describe yourself? And she said, I am artistic and I love to read. So in recognition of this achievement, it's my privilege to present her with this wonderful certificate, as well as a book of her choice, The Boxcar Children Guide to Adventure. Congratulations, Grace.
Grace, that is quite an accomplishment. Very, very proud of you, as I'm sure I speak for the members of the committee as well. I would love for you to stop by my office tomorrow. I'd like to give you something because what you did is extraordinary. And I see that you take the initiative, you're very motivated, and we're super proud of you. Keep up the good work, okay? Thank you, and your beautiful dress. Thank you. Okay, next we have Mrs. Chesney and Mrs. Picetto from the elementary school, the principals, and they will be highlighting PBIS at the elementary school.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. We wanted to talk about PBIS. We had done meet and greets back before we actually started in July with the teachers, and one of the areas that was mentioned to us was the Principals Awards. And the comment that we had kept getting over and over again was that they didn't know what the rationale was or the criteria was for principal award, and they really wanted that to be one of the things that we changed. So we decided, Julie, it really is her baby here, decided to kind of bring back, it's something that had been in the past, but bring back PBIS to be able to really focus on the positive, to provide a more inclusive way for all students to be able to take part in and be recognized. Very often in the principal's awards, they're kept having the same names come up, and that was another comment. But we want people to be able to be recognized based on their behavior choices, as well as, including people who might not have the chance to do that if it were just an academic recognition. So to talk about what is PBIS, it basically we aim to create a positive environment with common language, common expectations, and explicit teaching of expectations. So we've really kind of started just focusing on that first positive piece by highlighting someone, by highlighting a trait, add someone from each classroom who is embodying that trait every month. So we'll get to those traits in just a second. But we started very small, and we're really focusing on the positive behaviors. And back when we were talking about our school improvement plan and our district improvement plan, one of our big areas that we wanted to branch out in was to basically connect with the community. And we have been able to have the community come in a variety of ways. We've had Dina St. Pierre, the librarian, come in and do readings. We've had other members of the community come in. And the students have also been reaching out to the community, giving back to the community, whether they were giving mittens, things like that for December's generosity, sports ball collections. The kindergarten had done a pajama one we don't have up there, and acts of kindness. So we're really trying to really make this a community effort as well, and we'd like to see that expand in the year to come.
Good evening, everyone. So every month there's a monthly theme, and we talk about it every morning when we do announcements. We talk about, for instance, right now it's responsibility, so we give the definition, we give some examples, and we ask them, how can you be responsible this month or today, right? So we've also included all the monthly themes with descriptions and how their child can demonstrate respect, kindness, cooperation in our parent newsletter. And also at lunchtime, we kind of focus on some of these different areas every month. For instance, right now, it's responsibility. So how can you show responsibility today? So it's kind of a challenge every day to those character traits. So the culmination every month when each character trait, for instance, so responsibility right now, students and teachers are really kind of focused in on that character trait and what it means. And at the end of the month, the teachers submit a form that it's basically a nomination, and the students are nominated by the teacher in their class, and that's how they are presented with that PBIS certificate at lunchtime. Then 2 days later, they're invited to come to I call it a special snack. And basically that special snack it was cookie decorating once, it was hot cocoa bombs once. You can see some pictures, those are the hot cocoa bombs, and the other one was, yes, the hot cocoa bombs. You saw the snake? Miss Sylvia graciously brought over her snake as a last minute. We had someone cancel on us, but the community partners have come to every single one of these. So for instance, we had the fire chief at one of them, and he spoke to the students about cooperation. We had just recently, it was Selectman DeRoche. He came and he really personalized every single student. So we also give that person that's doing the community outreach all of the little blurbs that the teachers write up. So they know exactly what this student did to receive that award. Those little blurbs also go home to parents. So often my children, when we were lucky, got an award. And I'd say, well, what did you get this award for? I don't know, Mom. So it's really nice that the parents know exactly what their student did, and we added that part to it. So we also have Dr. Bailey coming in. We have we've had a lot of different community outreach members, and it's been great. For instance, the December outreach was generosity, and students and families sent in acts of generosity that they did at home, and then we said them over the morning announcements. So it's not just that student that gets the award, it's everyone. That's what the community part is about. For instance, last month we did Pennies for Puppies, which was a donation to the Lighthouse Animal Shelter, and it was everyone coming together to give towards that. So we've also done the Giving Tree that benefited the United Way. And these were just some pictures. As I said, Selectman DeRoche came, it was last week or a few weeks ago, and did a wonderful job. Took a picture with every single student. It was really nice. So those were just some examples. Our school adjustment counselors have been instrumental in helping us bring this off the ground, really. And that is Nicole Power, who could not be here tonight. She's at a conference, and Jill Carroll, who is also here. And we actually have one of our PBIS award winners from a previous month with Respect, I believe it was. It's Neil Lavalin. Neil, do you want to come up?
So Ms. Carroll is going to ask Neil some questions to give you a better idea of the process.
Wonderful. And we are so proud of Neil and all of our students at Acushnet Elementary School, because I really feel even the students who are not winning the award each month, I believe that they are working hard toward that character trait. So Neil, if you would like to share with the committee what was your character trait? Well, first of all, what grade are you in?
I'm in 3rd grade.
Okay, and what was the character trait of the month that you received the award?
I received the Respect Award.
Okay, and why do you feel you've received the Respect Award?
I feel I received the Respect Award because my parents taught me how to be respectful.
And Mom, is that Mom here? And what kinds of things did they teach you to show every day when you come into school, when you leave their care?
They taught me how to say thank you or no or please. They taught me how to hold the door for others. They taught me how to be kind and gentle to others.
And this is very true about Neil. He is such a wonderful young man in our school. We're fortunate to have him. And Ms. Pacetto spoke about the ceremonies that we have each month to celebrate the students. And each month I love and look forward to going to those and sitting with the students and talking to them. Neil, which one did you go to? What was the special snack?
I went to the hot cocoa bombs one with the snake.
The snake, do you remember the snake's name?
No.
Did you hold the snake on that day?
I think I did.
You're here to tell about it.
What did it feel like?
It felt like soft and silky.
Wonderful. Thank you, Neil. And if I could just add one additional thing, Nicole, who couldn't be here, we love that it's a monthly theme because we go into the classroom each week actually to teach lessons to our students, and we look at the theme of the month and really try hard to base our lessons on that character trait. And even the grades as simple as kindergarten, I can ask them, who can tell me what the trait of the month is? And they all raise their hand, and it's like they're reading it the way Ms. Pacetto reads it every morning. So it really has been a wonderful addition to Acushnet Elementary School.
Thank you so much. And Neil, I owe you something too, so I'm going to have to find you over at the elementary school, okay? I will look for you very soon. Okay. I'll have a little surprise for you. But I have to say, Neil, to get up and speak in front of people, that's a skill. That's a skill set. And you did really well with that. So congratulations on that. And I would say to the committee that the culture, this helps with the culture, the student and the staff culture. But there's, in addition to each student from each classroom getting recognized each month for such an important trait, it's lots and lots of learning that is happening with all kids. I mean, when I saw the students' faces when Selectman DeRoche came in, nobody knew what a select board member was, right? And it was like, to see their faces and learn about what he does and how he has to be cooperative with the people on the board and working together. These are all very important life skills and life lessons. So I could go on and on about the learning that's happening, but most importantly, the culture that's really taking a hold at the elementary school. And it starts with the leaders, but really the teachers have embraced it, and the students as well. I cannot say enough about what's happening at the elementary school. Super proud of Ms. Pacetto and Mrs. Chesney, the counselors, the work you've done, the teachers, everybody is on board. Neil and all of his friends at the school. It's really nice to be there and be a part of such a nice community. So, does anybody have any questions about that or any comments?
No questions. I just think it's excellent work that we've got this back up and running again. And congratulations to both of you on your hard work. And you know, the great thing about what you've both done is when other students see the good work that you're doing, it has a ripple effect, and you help other students do better as well through your own actions. So you should feel very, very proud of the work that you've done. So thank you.
They're great role models. Plus, they're rock stars.
Any
Right?
other comments? No?
Said
Okay.
it very well.
Okay.
All right, great, thank you.
Okay, next up, I would like to call Ms. Ruggieri up. We would like to go over the ESSER 3 grant. If you recall, several weeks ago, Mr. Howcroft, you had actually asked if we could put this on the agenda and really review with the committee what this grant looks like and what the spending looks like. So we've done a little bit before, but we're going to go a little bit more in depth tonight. And if you have any questions as we go through, please feel free to let us know, okay? All right, so ESSER stands for Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief. And as you know, we've had ESSER, 1, 2, and now 3. But it's funding, and this came as a result of the pandemic, to support the safe reopening and sustaining safe operations of schools while meeting students' academic, social, emotional, and mental health needs, and again, resulting from the pandemic. This so far was our largest grant. It was approved back in February, and the amount is for $688,273. And we are able to, because it's been approved in February, we're able to start spending right up until September of the year 2024. And we're really going to talk tonight about, how do we figure out how we're going to spend it. And one thing I do want to say is that, this is also very flexible. We can put in amendments as the need changes. But this will give you a good idea tonight about how we plan to spend that money.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. So we've actually shared this table with you once before when we were reviewing all of our grants overview. But the idea behind this is that in order to get the ideas of how we were going to write the grant, we needed to consult with the various stakeholders in the community. So this is just letting us know the number of people who participated in the survey and who they were representing. And again...
And I just want to say, I hope people realize that we do send home a lot of surveys, but everyone's voice is important. And we want to show people that we really are listening. Your voice matters, and as we go through this tonight, you'll see on the charts what was really important to people. We're listening, because as you will see how we spend the money, it really went according to what people's preference was.
Yes, so for academics and instruction, We had a lot of feedback that it seemed very important to the community to focus on early literacy, programming, and math skill building. Also important was planning and implementing summer learning and after-school programming and providing principals with other resources to address school needs.
And the after-school programming has been fantastic.
Yes.
Thank you.
I just
Thank
want to
you.
say.
Yes.
It's really great to see.
Yes, I agree. There was a great article in the Standard Times last week
I saw it,
about the
yeah.
elementary.
Front
Really
page
great.
above the fold. Good.
Wow, great
Yeah.
placement.
And that's a great segue to the social emotional supports, because when you talk about after-school programs and such, that really does help with that. But if you look at the purple bar, those are the areas that were super important. If you look all the way to the right, that's that mental health supports and services for kids. And especially, at the beginning and throughout this pandemic, this is something that was super important to people, as well as evidence-based activities, parent engagement, tracking attendance, and improving student engagement. And then also activities to address the unique needs of low-income children, students with disabilities, our English learners, racial and ethnic minorities, students experiencing homelessness, and foster care youth, including outreach and service delivery. So all those things on this page were very important, but most important was the one on the right, was maximizing capacity for coordination to connect students to behavioral and mental health supports and services.
I just have one question. When you address the unique needs of the children, and of course the COVID basically was to alleviate and deal with some of those issues. What were some of the characteristics that the students, children would show, reflect?
I think it varies. Mr. Howcroft, it's a great question, but I know we are going to be talking about some of those unique needs in a few minutes, but
Good.
just to give you some examples, some
Nice.
students may have experienced anxiety, depression, all those things that we need to provide counseling for. It might have been difficult for students to come back to school after being homeschooled or in a remote program. And that's why you see we're doing a lot of things with after-school programming and such to get our kids where they need to be, not only academically to get those learning gaps, but also socially and emotionally, that whole child. But we are going to get into the unique needs in a few minutes.
Okay.
Okay?
And I'll do some anecdotal type.
Absolutely.
insights later.
Absolutely. Okay, next we have operations. And if you look at these charts, that second one where you see the large bar on the purple bar, that's all school ventilation system improvements. That's the sanitizing district facilities. So a lot of the air quality flow was really important to people. We've already done a lot of those projects, and we have a lot more projects on the docket for that. We also have educational technology, which includes everything in that technology, the connectivity, the hardware devices, the software, technology support services, etc. And then the last three columns really have to do more with the health and safety and all the COVID protocols and the district operations around those things.
Okay, so here's the overview of how we categorized the grant, the spending. So instructional professional staff, support staff salaries, stipends, mass teachers retirement system, contract services, supplies and materials, and other costs. And I'm going to, I'll break these each category down as we go along. So for instructional and professional staff, that would be for classroom teachers for summer learning, school adjustment counselors to increase the counselors at the Ford Middle School. Support staff salaries would be for paraprofessionals for summer learning, a temporary custodian, and a facilities and maintenance worker. Stipends include summer site coordinators, tutoring before and after school programming, and technicians for all of the new technology that's coming to the district. The Mass teacher's retirement is just a portion needs to go toward that when we have teachers working these extra hours in the summer and after school programming. Contractual services would be, we offered summer programming to the middle school students here, and there's so many different courses that are offered at the middle school level. To offer each one of those courses to be taught by a teacher, we just didn't have the staffing for that. So we can get our online courses through, last year it happened to be Apex, and then we just have a few staff members or faculty to help guide that learning in person.
Can I just jump in here? So for contractual services, to go back to your question about unique needs, we are in a partnership with Stonehill College for advanced learning in the summertime for our middle school students, and it's basically a 4 or 5 week program that they stay over at the college, and we're looking to use some of this money for scholarships. I believe the fee is $1,900 for everything, staying over, meals, etc. But we've been doing a lot of work with Stonehill to make sure that Acushnet has these opportunities. But again, talking about the unique needs, we still have students who are advanced and they need those critical thinking skills, etc. So that's one example of a unique need that we're trying to see through.
Nursing for summer programming and professional development. Supplies and materials. The FMS has a library media specialist now, and she's been going through the books, and many were outdated, and we've surplus those, and now we need to bring in more current materials. So there was money funded to replenish the library media center and STEM labs, attendance incentives, parent engagement, professional culture, just updating some of the furniture, student desks at AES. We're looking at a project to update a professional development room for staff training at the Ford Middle School, and instructional technology. Other costs, late bus transportation to help with those after-school programming, food for after-school programming, SEL activities, outdoor projects, and HVAC projects. I'll get into that a little bit more. And then we budgeted for a heat increase due to increased airflow in the classrooms. So some of these other cost projects really are, in a way, helping to offset some of the capital projects and expenses that would be coming up. As far as outdoor projects go, the idea would be to have an outdoor greenscape, to develop and improve outdoor learning spaces, dining opportunities, recreational spaces, and community outreach and development. So we're looking at improving the sports courts, making like a learning, dining, and community pavilion outside in between the two schools. Signage, we're looking at updating the signage at the elementary schools and getting an electronic sign for communications. Currently, when we want to put communications on the sign out front, usually it's Steve, our facilities person, will go out there and letter by letter put up a message. And this will be just, we can change it anytime from a computer here in the buildings. So we just thought it would be a good outreach to the community to have relevant and timely messaging. And all of these expenses, probably won't be covered by $104,000, but it's a start. And then the HVAC projects, that was very, very important to the community to address the air quality issues and upgrade systems. So the areas of focus would be the AES computer lab and the curriculum support room has very poor ventilation at this time. The Ford Middle School Library, update the current system to include air conditioning and increase air ventilation. With more summer programming that we're having in the district, it's just some of the days become, even toward the end of the school year, it gets really hot. But in the summer, just to provide a more comfortable space for learning and also just for better air quality. And dehumidifiers, we've already started this, and it will continue to put multiple dehumidifiers in trouble spots in the buildings. And we're looking at the central office suite does not have sufficient air conditioning and ventilation for, especially during the summer months. And again, $125,000 probably is not going to cover all of those needs, but it will be a good dent.
And if I could just add, another thing that we've done is, we've continued to put together our capital improvement committee that has a lot of a representation of all the stakeholders and really prioritizing many of these projects. So this grant will definitely help take off some of the things off the list. But we learned a lot during the pandemic. We learned that, our students and teachers love to work outside at times, and we were very fortunate to have the Boy Scouts put together a couple of classroom areas. This pavilion and greenscape area would just kick it up a notch and give us more of that, strengthen what we already have. So I don't know if anybody has any questions, comments, but I know this is something that you had asked to put on the agenda so that you could see how we were going to spend down this money.
One question, you mentioned about ongoing health programs that probably will continue, prevention, and probably build it in the whole structure of the school. Is that basically what's happening? I saw it written, but I'd like to see it addressed.
You're talking about the health and safety?
Right, so...
And the operations?
Habits, changing of habits.
Yeah, one of the things that we did with our other grants is we installed touchless faucets or toilets or both. We went through the district, we made sure that everybody had hand sanitizer. We got students in really good habits. And again, not knowing the unknown, I feel like we're in a much better direction now as far as the pandemic itself, but there's new variants coming out all the time, and we are basically keeping an eye on everything should protocols need to change. Right now, we're doing the test and stay, not that so much, but the take-home test for our students and staff who choose to participate in that. And things change all the time. They're going to reassess that after the April break, and we just watch and see. But with this grant, we're ready should we have to implement anything. We got additional nursing services, which was desperately needed. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I would agree. I mean, a lot of those safety protocols many of them are still in place.
That's right.
And will continue to be.
We still have children wearing masks and adults. It's very mixed. We still have some spacing going on in our buildings. It's lessened, but definitely we're in the right direction.
So just another quick question. Besides COVID, we know that there are many other diseases that go through the school, especially the stomach bug that has been starting to trickle down to everywhere.
I heard that's coming out now,
Yes,
right?
it is.
I'm going to put my mask on.
Yeah, put yourself in a bubble, John. Because it's my concern is that we keep up with the cleaning, the touch surfaces, not just for the sake of COVID, but just for everything, especially the lunchrooms, because there are other people that use that, other places. So is this grant being used for that as well, or is it just, it doesn't have to, we don't have to put a label on it, right?
Right.
I don't know if Mrs. Flynn wants to talk to this, but we did able to hire additional custodian and maintenance
Okay.
through the grants that we've kept on for the budget for next year. And that's been a tremendous help. And again, we're always looking at things like when we had the regulations for the buses, we had custodians going on and cleaning the buses in between runs. We don't have to do that anymore. We just keep an eye on everything as it changes. You know, we can't predict what's going to happen. I mean, the good news is there's less hospitalizations. You know, we see a slight uptick in the district now, but I do believe it's because we're not wearing masks like we were, but it's very slight.
Thank you.
So at some point, I'd be anxious to learn more about the sports courts, but one just call out that I've seen happen in other places when they make a significant investment in courts or those kinds of things is not putting any money in the budget to maintain them. So I would just encourage folks to think about that, because you go through a winter, they crack, and they kind of get run down, right? And so there's a need to kind of maintain them. So it's just a call out.
Yeah, I agree with that. So yeah, we're gonna, and you know, we could certainly use a committee member like yourself when we get to the planning of those sports courts, because I know you're very interested in that, so we'd love to have you on the committee for that. You know, I think getting more people involved and listening to all the ideas, that's when we're going to get a better product, if you will. So we're trying to do things right. We're trying not to rush things. You know, the example of the signage, we've been talking about this for a long time, how it's very difficult to drive by the district and really read the sign, right? But, you know, more updated signage would help people actually read the important information and get the information, you know. So we're constantly trying to make improvements to our facilities, our buildings, everything, the culture. But these grants have certainly helped us, and we know that this grant money won't last forever. So with the stakeholder input, we're trying to be super thoughtful about how we go about spending this and what the needs are.
Great. Excellent.
Does anybody else have any comments or questions for myself or Ms. Regari?
Just a point of personal, privilege. I'm reassured that you're headed, in my estimation, in the right direction. And I want to thank you for the presentation that you have, because it seems that those activities do meet the needs of children that have gone through some, I don't say trauma, but at least some challenging times and also in their home lives, through the COVID.
Absolutely, we have families who have lost family members to COVID, but when you go around and see the children meditating and yoga and learning how to play the ukulele or speak a different language, and you see the joy coming not only from the students but the staff together, it's really a rewarding experience when I'm able to walk through and see these things happening. And it's because we have the support of the committee, the grants, etc., that we're able to do this for our community.
Again, the personal privilege, Madam Chairman, I just wanted, it brings back some memories that during the New Bedford riots in 1970, that summer, that I funded and directed a program to deal with children who were living in the riot zone. These children were experiencing fires, shootings, and everything else that they went through. I get emotional about it when I think back of what these kids had experienced. So we had a special curriculum, we worked out a curriculum based on what we saw, their characteristics as they were coming in. We had youngster, hyperactivity was one of them. I mean, your children were, jumping on tables and everything else, and also directing, violence towards each other, and also youngsters that were in a state of depression, that they would be hiding in the adult corners and so forth. So we had to work out a whole, curriculum dealing with that. And basically, a lot of them were like gross motor skills, outdoor, which you've been doing here, outdoor type of things. And but they couldn't deal with roof find, like storytelling. It was too much for them. They were too high active. We had to do a lot of like gross motor things, and it was quite an experience, that I have, and I always reflect back to that. And when he had this program, I sort of wanted to say, well, what are they really doing? Because I've seen some of that in real life with the kids.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your personal.
Thank you for sharing that. Just a really important point of information. At the elementary school alone, the first round of after-school programming, we had over 220 students participate. And for the second round, which we're currently in, I believe it's over 240 children, which is more than half of our population at school. So it speaks volumes about the quality of activities that are being done. It also speaks volumes about the families that are, supporting these ideas and allowing their children to participate and give them these opportunities. Because like I said, when you go around and you see these things, these are the things that get children excited about school. They can't wait to get to school to go to this club. And when they talk about it, you can feel and sense the happiness and the joy. So again, supporting these, funding, the committee support, I can't thank you enough, because it's doing tremendous things for our kids.
It was always easier to pick up the kids in the morning, because you got to realize what sometimes in real life happens. In the morning, the shooters were usually in the neighborhood, were usually in bed, when we picked up the kids at 8 o'clock. But when it was about 1 o'clock taking the youngsters home, I could not get, for example, police escorts for the buses because they had barricades. We were on our own beyond the barricades. And so then we had some very, those kids had some, as well as the staff, had some very trying times in getting, you think of what's going on in Ukraine. It happened right in this general geographic area. So I just want to share that. I hope I've not taken too much time on the agenda. Thank you.
And I think with the pandemic, our kids have shown us that they're very resilient, and they will continue to be, and we will continue to support them. However, we have to support them to best meet their unique needs. Next on my agenda is the personnel report. And you will see that since the last report, I have one resignation. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay, moving on. The next thing is, if you recall, we were going to come up with some type of system that with my goals, superintendent's goals, we could sort of track a lot of these topics that we talk about during school committees and sort of align them with my goals. So before I have not shared this document with you yet, because I wanted to introduce it tonight, but it looks familiar, hopefully, to you. It lists my goals, it's all the same wording, the strategies, the resources, but what I have started to add is, you'll see the evidence under each goal, that the topics from each school committee meeting, that you might see a presentation on social emotional learning. And then what I do is I put the topic down as a reminder, because again, these are 2-year goals. It's going to be difficult at times to recall some of this information. So I'd like to keep up on this each month. My second goal doesn't really have anything yet, because that's the ongoing PD, and I'll just add that at a later date. But I wanted to get everything in that really pertained to each goal. And what I found by doing this exercise is that there are a lot of things that, with operations, that don't necessarily fit into these goals. So I just don't list them. I think, you have an idea of what I do, but this will at least give you an idea as we move forward. And what I'll do is I will share it on the Google Drive with each of you, so that after every meeting, or, I'll just keep up on adding each topic and what goal they kind of go with. Is that helpful?
So helpful.
Yeah.
This is
Great.
Amazing.
Because you don't realize, we go through a lot each month, and we
We do.
talk about a
Yeah.
lot
You
of
can't
things,
remember everything.
and it's hard to remember. So I thought And I tried different ways. Remember, I tried putting it on an agenda, and I'm like, oh, that's still going to be hard to track after a while. And I thought a spreadsheet, but I think keeping the same form and just sort of listing it like this was probably the easiest for me, and the easiest to kind of read and keep in the same format. Does anybody have any questions?
How do you feel, John? Because I know
No, this
you
is
were
great.
having.
Yeah, I had the most trouble.
Well,
probably.
what do you
I
think
was
about
right there
this?
with
Well,
you.
yeah.
Well, it's always challenging,
Yeah.
I think, every year.
Yeah, I mean, it's still challenging the way that the goals are written to me, because there's not a ton of measurable stuff for us to really look at on this. So but this is certainly, gives us a laundry list of items that were kind of related to that goal. So I think it's a big improvement for sure. So, yeah.
Well, can I add to that, John? So, like, for example, she has here for evidence MCAS results, so that we can take a look at that.
Oh, I like, so I
So
like
that's
that,
kind of-
but then to say, okay, well, how are we doing with that? We don't really have a goal attached to it, right?
Right.
So that's where it becomes difficult, like how do we do on that goal? Well, I guess, scores improved, but did we reach the goal? Well, there really wasn't one, so.
We didn't put like a 5%
Right.
or 10% increase.
Sure,
Okay.
sure. So, and maybe that's too
But there are
simple,
percentages.
but, what's that?
But there are percentages attached to, I'm going to get this wrong saying it, but like with your dibbles, for instance, you've got percentages in there that you want to see, or, right? So I think there's percentages integrated within these various evaluation tools.
So this
Am I correct?
Yeah,
Am I?
these goals are the umbrella for the district, and then the administrators take the same goals, and
Right.
they take those goals and work with their schools or their departments on, okay, how do we use this goal and improve student learning, right? It might look very different, and those numbers are going to look very different at the elementary school. They're even going to look different classroom by classroom based on the kids that they have in front of them, right? So that's what we're doing when we have all these meetings all the time and we're looking at data. Depending on the meeting, we're either talking about specific children, specific classrooms, and we're trying to be reflective as we go on. The goal is to move that needle in the right direction. MCAS is only one test, and I don't believe that it's the only measure to measure kids' success. There's so many other things, and that's why we do multiple tests throughout the year. So again, these goals, as we've been taught through our NSIP program that, as you remember, the district paid for me to attend that for the first 3 years, is to really be the umbrella, and then, it kind of trickles from there. So all the district strategies, the school improvement planning, the teachers' goals, everything starts with these sort of umbrella goals. And what you hopefully should see happening in the schools as you hear about these presentations is improvement. We want our kids, our classrooms, our teachers, everyone's building their capacity. We just want to improve and be reflective. And there's a lot of different ways to get there. But to put a specific, let's just say like an MCAS number, I don't have control over that because I'm not in front of children in a classroom teaching that specific content area. That MCAS number is going to be different in a 7th grade math classroom, and it's going to be different in a 4th grade classroom based on the numbers. We looked at doing increases by percentages, so those are the things that we've been working on with the principals and the teachers.
Dr. Bailey, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think people probably have lots of opinions about MCAS. It might not be the thing that we'd be looking at, but what I'm interested in as a school committee member is to try to connect the dots between something as simple as the fact that we didn't have curriculum in as a budget item just a couple of years ago, and now it is. And the district has made a pretty substantial investment in that, and I think the district has to continue to make a substantial investment in that. And for us to be able to connect the dot between something as simple as that to, the improvement in scores and again, very important to the ESSER 3 grant is, early literacy and math. What is the curriculum doing for that? We kind of looked at the data and we had a lot of critiques in it. It's like, okay, how do we extract these? Because it's not tracking with the grades as they move, that type of thing, right? So we could look at this year's 7th grade versus last year's 7th grade, but that's unfair, right? What we should be looking at is this year's 8th grade relative to last year's 7th grade, like that sort of thing. And figuring out, okay, how do we draw a direct line from the budget and the changes that we're doing there, and how's that translating to, the children's performance, especially when they leave here and go to high school.
That's
I think
right.
that was an issue, right?
I can tell you that anecdotally, we see that the new curriculum is more rigorous. It's green rated, which means that it's more rigorous, high level, and that's what we said we were going to choose when we started picking out curriculum. This was vetted out through not only our director of curriculum, but teachers. We could not do it all at once, but for example, if you look at 7th graders going into 8th grade, you might have a situation where they had a not so good curriculum, right? It was low level, and now all of a sudden kids are struggling because it's rigorous curriculum. It's where they should be at. Our goal is always to get them ready for that next grade level. We want our kids to be competitive when they go into the high school. I've talked about this since I arrived in town, is that all of our kids in Acushnet should have the same opportunities that, if they choose Fairhaven or New Bedford, that New Bedford or Fairhaven kids have. We're not second-class citizens. They should be at the same playing field, and it wasn't always like that. After things that I heard about in my listening tours. So we're really making an effort to make sure that our kids have the opportunities and also that they're ready for these opportunities. So what we've also done this year is we've met more with Fairhaven High School about the curriculum and what is it that we need to do. Here's what we're using, here's what we're doing, here's how our kids are performing. We want to make sure that when our kids enter the high school door, whichever one it is, that they're ready and they're not behind. I don't think that was always the case. And it's not going to happen overnight or even in 1 year. This is a multi-year progress. Like good change, the research shows good change takes 3 to 5 years. And hopefully you've already seen a lot of good change in the last 3 to 4 years. And then, the idea is that we just continue to build on that. I think, did we share the timeline with you about the, how we're going to adopt the different curriculum? We did that recently,
Yeah,
right?
you did.
Okay.
And I also want to point out, Mrs. Rigeri did a great presentation. I don't know how many school committee meetings back now, maybe 3, where you did show progress in each grade level, ELA, math, science, where we were increasing, where we may not be, since a lot of the changes that the new curriculum has been. Am I making this up? But I remember this presentation.
I remember.
So it was an excellent presentation, and I felt like I walked away from that kind of getting a sense of where I knew where at least we were. So we do, and those were based on, was it MCAS and Dibbles or is it? Galileo. So that's, I guess, what I was trying to say before is that we have those metrics built in to all these individual tools that we're using to evaluate academic achievement. And so continuing these presentations that show us where we're at. And maybe, I don't know if they're listed here, Dr. Bailey, but that could also be a flag for all of us that, that presentation.
They are.
Okay.
Yeah. And just to point out, if something applied to more than one goal, they're listed twice or 3, whatever.
There's just not numbers here. It's just you put the information.
So where it says evidence in the bottom box of each section, that's where it is.
I think to your point, John, is that our last new curriculum that goes in, Angie, correct me if I'm wrong, is it next year or is it this, when is the last new one?
The year after.
The year after. So technically, right, if we're thinking 3 years to have it set in, we're looking at another 4 years before we can really put numbers on this. Like, here's the, right?
And it's recommended that you change or look at changing curriculum every 4 years or so.
But it'll be rigorous,
Every
though.
3 to 4.
It won't be what it was in the
Right, it'll
past.
be
So we should be
rigorous.
on an upward scale 4
We
years
should.
from now.
And the way I look at
Right?
my
If you
role,
kind
Gosh, I
of think.
hope so, yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I also am a realist, like, I know I'm not gonna come in and just magically change the district and change those scores. I look at my role as a leader of leaders. So we have so many leaders in the district. I have one-to-one meetings constantly talking to the leaders in the district about what they're doing, guiding them, working together, collaborating, and, you know, moving forward with that. Meeting with the principals, same idea. And they do the same thing with their teachers. You know, I try to connect with teachers all the time. So, you know, when I was a 4th grade teacher, a 3rd grade teacher, like, I could say, I want to bring my kids from here, where they are, to here. You were a teacher in another classroom, your baseline was different, right? But the idea is, by having these sort of umbrella goals, everybody now, it trickles down to the school improvement plans, and I've seen way more alignment. That was a big concern when I walked in the district, is that there was no alignment. People talked about it, the teachers, the parents, the students, from even within the grade level, there was no alignment. Everybody was doing something different. And then you go from grade to grade, and it was way off. And I can tell you now, I was just walking through the classrooms the other day. I was in 2nd grade. I walked from 2nd grade to 2nd grade to 2nd grade. And one thing that was very evident to me is these teachers are planning together. They're collaborating. The lessons that were going on, while they were slightly different, because I believe in academic freedom, everyone's going to put their own flair to what they're teaching, they are definitely working together to help the kids. And, you know, nobody works well in isolation, but we see way more collaboration going on than, you know, a couple of years back. So hopefully these goals, whether they have a number attached to them or not, are getting the results that we want to see. And I think that we have seen some really good improvements, and I'm really proud of what's happening in the district. But anyway, this is...
And I'm sure we can credit the new curriculum as part of why teachers are feeling motivated to collaborate on their planning time. They have that.
They have the resources they need.
Right, right.
So thanks to the support.
I thank you, and I think this is a big improvement. I agree with the idea of, I just think that we should continue to look to refine these goals so that we can, and I'm not saying everything in here has to be quantifiable or have a number, but where we have opportunities to maybe introduce that, I think we should continue to look for those opportunities, because to Mr. Tev's point, I think it does help draw the line of connection. I think last year, I'll speak for myself, I felt like, what does excellent look like? What, like, I don't know, right? Because there's a lot here, and it was kind of like, well, I guess it's whatever I think, right? So when we have some more of those measurables in here, it just makes it provides the framework, I think, to be able to assess performance. So all the things you said are great, the alignment's great, I just think as we move along, we should continue to try to refine these goals where we can, so.
I just want to point out that these were approved, though, for the 2 years,
I
right?
agree, no,
Okay.
absolutely, yeah.
So I'll just continue at this point, doing this. I'll send you I'll share with you this in electronic form. But before I shared it, I just wanted to explain how I did it. And if you have a different way that you'd prefer, let me know. But I'm going to continue doing it this way if the committee is okay with that.
That's great.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah, just, Madam Chairman, just, a comment, on measurables and things like that. Sometimes you don't want to stifle administrative creativity. That is one of the key things in administration, is thinking outside the box all the time. And challenges are always dynamic. They're changing all the time, and you've got to keep refining your scope and dealing with some of those challenges. So if you're bogged down in well, we're going to have measurables and this, that, and the other, you can go, pretty soon you're not seeing the forest for the trees at all. So I just want to add that.
Yeah,
That's fair.
So, Ms. Howcroft, I think the creativity of the administration can be stifled by the budget. And so I think that, I think that's the point is that, when it comes to budget, you've got to show that, hey, because that's kind of what they asked for.
Well,
There's some results.
But, and I
We
think
could
that you have to
refine-
assess whether what you're doing at some point, whether you think it's working, right? And how do you determine that?
just refine our creativity in dealing with budgets, that's all.
I think it is, we can sit here and
That'd be a good retort.
no, my point is, we could say, like, I feel as though the things that are happening are moving in that direction, right? The spiraling of the curriculum, to Dr. Bailey's point, the fact that they're franchising essentially, the experience for every classroom in a particular grade, that's, we want the same experience to be had by all the students, but to your point, and there's lots of room for creativity there, but again, it can be, when you have these great ideas, they're stifled by the budget at times, so. And I think that's the way that we're gonna, get the dollars to the district to allow for that freedom, is to show, hey, the things that we're actually spending the dollars on are moving the district in an exceptional way, so.
My hope is that you will see that
Yeah.
with these presentations, and as the
starting to
teachers
see- I
come
see it.
through and present the data. And the thing is, teachers are being reflective. The conversations that are happening now in the district are like nothing I've seen in the last few years. It is so different, and it's so positive. People are working super hard with the administration of each building, and, it's for the kids. We want to do what's best for the children in front of them. So I think not just MCAS, but Galileo, Dibbles, all of it, you will get that data. I'm not saying it's always going to be great, but the last time we did look at data, you did see some good increases, so obviously that's what we want. And the other thing is, some of it is anecdotal. The social emotional piece, that's so big right now, we have to do something, so we're looking at curriculum for that. This is not a one-year solution. This is multi-year, it's multi-phased, and we're all working together, and including the school committee. I need the support of the committee to continue this good work that the staff is doing, so thank you. Because like you said, it comes down to money, and I have always felt supported when we've asked for money, and I think we've tried to be really reasonable with the things we've asked for, so thank you.
I have a quick, one final question. So back in the day, schools were, they were levels, like level 1, level 2, level 3. They did away with that. Is there anything else that the state does to sort of promote our school system? So like blue ribbon schools, things like that. Like what can we tell the town that or what can we have as goals as a district to get more people to recognize the town of Acushnet?
I think I'd like to take that comment, and I'd love to take it to my team
Okay.
and see what we come up with together. Because I can have one goal, but I've got to get buy-in.
Okay.
So if people in Acushnet want to be a blue ribbon school, they want to strive to, go from here to here, I'd love to get feedback on that from the team, and including the teachers. What we want to be the very best. I've heard people say that during the pandemic, Acushnet really was shining in all the region because of the things we were doing. So that's one example, but we also want it to be noticed at the state level, is what you're saying.
Right, yeah.
So I think what I would like to do is have a conversation with my team, and I'd like them to have a conversation with their teachers, and then I'd like to come back to you with what a goal, having to do with that
I think
at
that
the
would be
state
nice.
level.
Would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
Okay, moving on. The district calendar, you probably all had time to look at the new calendar for next year. But basically, we'd be looking for a vote on that, because I'd like to be able to publish it and get this out to families, does anybody have any questions?
I do, Bill.
Go for it, Sarah.
Why can't we just all start on the 7th? I don't understand. We're going to school for 3 days, the 31st, the 1st, and the 2nd.
Wait, say it again?
So the students go to school the 31st of August.
Yes.
And then they go the 1st, the 2nd.
Yeah.
Then they have that Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday off. And then they're back to school on the 7th.
Correct.
Can we just start on the 7th?
If they start on the 7th, we go later into June, and you see how late in the calendar we already are. We also have to account for 5 additional snow emergency days, and this year, we not only had snow emergency days, we had days where we had no electricity in October. I believe we canceled school 2 days in October, and every time we cancel school, that puts school out an additional day. What I will tell you is on that Tuesday, the 6th, the reason why that's blacked out is because that's an election day. So instead of wasting the day, we figured let's do a full day professional development day for staff, because we can still have that while an election is going on, instead of having our children in the building, because I know in the past that's been an issue. But, so we didn't waste the day and just make it a day off for everyone. We tried to be, counted as a day. But the students need to get in 180 days. And as you can see, even this year, we were much earlier, and then with the cancellations, it puts us out. Right now, the state is not allowing remote learning days to count. So in the past, during the pandemic, if we had a snow emergency and it wasn't too bad that we had electricity, we could do a remote learning day and it would count as a day of school. We can no longer do that. So, this is for you to vote on. If you disagree with that, I know that many, many districts start that last week in August. But again, I think it really pushes things off into the end of June. So right now, we're looking at June 15th with no snow emergencies being the last day of school. But you can see
And the 19th is a holiday.
the 19th is a holiday now, the Juneteenth. So just the 16th is a Friday. If we have 2 days off, that already pushes us into that week of the 20th, and it just gets later and later. So the 23rd it's required for us to look at 5 additional days. It's just really pushing it to July. And,
You don't want that.
Well, here's the thing. In September, it is still really hot. For the past at least 4 or 5 years that I remember, it's been almost 90 degrees in September. So the kids are dying in September, and it's not as hot. It's not 90 degrees in June. So that's why I was thinking. And plus, families.
I think your point's well taken, because the learning process, as the
Nobody's
temperature
learning
goes
those
up,
3 days.
diminishes.
Right. I mean, you go 3 days and then.
It's basically babysitting if it's getting, unless we have air conditioning.
The thing about New England,
You never know.
I know, you
Right,
never
you
we could
never
know.
have 90 degrees in October, we could have 90 degrees in June, and in August, I think our staff will make the best of it with the kids.
I know they
And we
do.
monitor,
It's not,
one thing we do, whether it's cold weather, hot weather, we monitor the temperature in all of our classrooms, it's all electronic, so we're able to see which classrooms are hot, we're able to see which ones are cold. If we have to move some classrooms for the day around, we do that. It's very rare. It's very few times that we'd have to do that. I can't even remember the last time we did it, if we even did it this year, thinking about maybe last year, but we do monitor when those temperatures are
right, but the highest
extreme.
temperatures are usually the last week in August, I don't,
So-
I'd like to hear from the other committee members.
Yeah, so if you wanted to
at
start
patterns.
on the 7th, as you're suggesting, that's 6 days out, right?
It's 3 days. We had 3 days to the end, right?
It's 3 days, yeah.
Had
Well,
3 days.
wouldn't we be starting on the 29th?
No, if we start on the 7th, we're just adding 3 days to the end.
You're adding
So
3
the-
days. to
Oh,
the
it's
end.
just 3 days, okay.
So that
um,
brings us to June 21st.
Well, the 22nd. right?
22nd.
The
It's
22nd.
Juneteenth.
And now the 5 additional days brings us to June 29th. I mean, it's really, but again, this is,
Those 5 additional days are that's your buffer, right, for snow days? Yeah.
like, we try not to go beyond that, just as you can see why.
But then you have the challenge of getting the 185 days for the staff, and when you do that.
That's right. You can't keep them past the end of June.
And then you gotta think like those first 3 days, I mean, it's more of an orientation feel, probably. I don't know if there's heavy learning going on, those first 3 days, but, I didn't even think of that, Ms. Gomes, but I could go either way. I think how it is fine, I guess.
Well, I think the challenge, right, is a lot of times families are trying to plan end of summer vacations through Labor Day,
Right, and then with
right?
work and everything, and then they have 3 days, so they have to get daycare for the 2 days, then they don't for 3, and then another 2 days of daycare, and then it's like, again, I'm just throwing that out there.
I think that's it. The only date I saw that I thought was possibly questionable was January 2nd. So what the heck's up with that one? But, I don't know. That was the only question I had. I didn't know if that was
I mean, I've always
Why is
asked, like, why do we
January
need a
2nd?
February end April vacation, but, that's just me.
you need them.
Now we're gonna change a 100-year-old tradition, right?
That's pretty, that'd be an
I'm
unpopular.
actually,
Why
I've
is the
asked Mrs.
second?
Benavides to check the policy, because I think she just pointed this out to me, that there may be a policy that we start before Labor Day.
Oh, we'll have to change that.
So we're gonna,
Policy
we're gonna check
subcommittee.
that right now.
I am, wait a
That
second.
happened because it never used to be.
Break an amendment.
Right, but
So-
maybe, I mean,
Why is
I
there
think
the
the trend
second?
years
Because-
ago was after Labor Day, and I think
It
for
might
the
be
past
like
several
Oh,
years,
yeah.
it's been
Recognized
before Labor Day.
holiday.
For many, many
For work
districts.
people.
It's because it falls on a Sunday,
Labor
right?
Day
So they
falls.
didn't really get to observe
If
it,
it's
so.
this date, then school starts before Labor Day. If it's that date, then it's after Labor Day.
All right, I was just throwing it out there.
But that is a
Unless it was
questionable one.
changed.
Mm-hmm.
But
Like
that's
the
how
change in
ask
high
them.
school times because of the sleep, they find, research shows the sleep patterns, of high schoolers, they need sleep, and they say, how early were they in the morning?
7 o'clock.
They got
Well,
7 o'clock they have to be there. 7 to
might be
10.
losing
Ridiculous.
daylight savings, right?
Yeah.
So that's another challenge. But I don't have an issue with the
Okay.
proposed district calendar.
Yeah, I don't either, really.
Okay.
So I do need a vote.
Okay.
So I'll
All right,
turn
so.
it back over to you, Mrs.
Sure,
Downing.
so if I could request, please, a motion of approval for the 2022-23 district calendar.
I'll make a motion to approve the calendar.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right.
I hope I comment for next year's
Someone
plan.
twist your arm.
Any further discussion on the calendar?
Yes, just so I hope our comments maybe carry forth for next year.
I'll work on it.
Can I
Okay.
just
All
also
right.
point out, Mrs. Flynn found it.
she found it.
ICAA, if you want to reference this, the policy ICAA, opening of schools. Schools will open for students the week before Labor Day unless otherwise voted by the school committee.
Oh,
So,
Ah.
right now, it's
Okay.
policy that is in place.
Otherwise voted by the school committee.
right, so we can change that right now. Right now, John, we can change it right now.
All those in favor of the district calendar as written today, and we can consider changes in the future?
Okay.
Okay?
Aye.
I,
Aye.
Let's hope
Okay.
our comments are not falling on
Okay.
Kelly's got it in the
excellent.
minutes, right?
hard ears.
Great. Okay,
thank you.
wonderful. Moving along here.
The next one is
Reads.
Reed's Board of Directors appointee, and that I'm going to turn back to Mrs. Downing, but just to remind folks, I am presently on the board, presently the vice president, next year I'll be the president, but each year it's a requirement for the school committee to appoint a person to the board. So I believe that Mrs. Downing will take it from here.
Right, so what our vote is tonight is to vote to appoint Dr. Bailey to continue to serve on the Reed's Board of Directors. So if I could request a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I do have to read a specific
Okay.
motion first,
Yeah.
though. So the motion is to appoint Dr. Bailey to serve as the Acushnet Public Schools representative on the Board of Directors of Reed's Collaborative in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 4E, as amended by Chapter 43 of the Acts of 2012 for the 2022-2023 school year. So we have,
Go ahead,
That's the
John.
motion.
okay.
I'll second.
And do we have any questions with regard to the motion or discussion? Okay, so seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations for you.
No, thank you.
Okay.
Oh, I was just going to give her that. Mrs. Downing, this
You have to
is
sign that, Jen.
the official
Yep.
sheet for you to sign for
Okay.
that, so thank you so much.
Yes.
The next thing is a donation acceptance, and, you know, according to our policy KCD, public gifts to the schools, any gift such as cash, any gift of cash, whether or not intended by the donor for a specific purpose, will be accepted by a vote of the school committee, handled as a separate account and expended at the discretion of the committee as provided by law. So we do have a donation. Somebody, Deborah and David Macedo, are gifting $50, and they would like it to go to the Ford Middle School music program, but this does require a vote of the committee because it is cash.
So we're voting to approve accepting the donation?
Yeah, and also,
Okay.
if you want it designated, you know, this person wanted it designated to the music program, which I would recommend. But you have the authority, based on the policy, to really expend that money at your discretion.
Okay.
So I would recommend that you put in the motion also where the cash is going.
Okay, so if I could request a motion, please, to approve, to accept the donation in the amount of $50 to be earmarked for the school's music department.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for the donation.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll send out correspondence to them in short order. The last thing I have is an out-of-state field trip request, and this requires a vote, as you know, because it's out of state. We have fourth grade who will be visiting Mystic Aquarium, or would like to visit Mystic Aquarium in Connecticut. So that does need approval by the committee.
Okay, if I could request a motion, please, of approval.
I have one question.
Oh,
on that.
sure,
I can do it after the
absolutely.
motion if you want.
Okay, I'll put the motion out. If I could request a motion of approval, please, for the out-of-state field trip request to Mystic Aquarium.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Second.
Favor. The question I have is, I was looking at that form, there are there's any student fees involved in this?
I do not see any student fees. According to this, the PTO will be funding.
Okay.
And I have to say that PTO, there is money collected from students, I'm sorry. Projected cost of the trip is $1,590. In this particular case, it doesn't say on here how much each student will be charged. I don't know if you know that, but I will tell you that, you know, no student would be turned away from going on a trip if they could not afford it. When I mentioned the PTO, they usually fund the transportation, which is obviously more expensive because they are going out of state. It's recommended that the kids are going to bring a bag lunch to the aquarium. It's usually a nominal fee if there is money collected, but I certainly will look into that with the principals to be sure that it's nothing outrageous, and to be sure that every student, if they're not able to pay for it, we look into,
There's a
another
charge for
method
this.
to make sure that every student.
Do you need approval to use any discretional money that you may have in any budget line items to subsidize that? Because it's a great trip.
Yeah,
John,
I don't want
I
to.
think so.
Can I
Have any,
interject?
limitations.
Right.
Is that possible, and do you need a vote, or whether you just have that discretion to
I don't think.
match that money with the PTO?
So I don't
Sarah's on the
think
PTO, so
you-
she can explain.
The PTO has funds.
Yeah, I just don't want to get into the fees business.
No.
With
I do have a question for the principals, if I
And
can
neither
ask.
does anybody else. but I
Was
mean-
this brought to the PTO for the students?
Yes, sir.
And the students have to pay
Transportation.
just the transportation, not anything else?
Typically, I mean, I think this has been what has been done prior to the pandemic. I want to say it's like around $6.
Will you go to the
It's about
microphone?
$9 or $10.
Yeah, it's not,
Okay.
it's not huge, but.
I was just wondering, because we do raise
Is
a lot of
this-
money on the PTO, and I think the teacher, I'm going to recommend teachers to go to the PTO and ask for everything, and then they can always be told no. So that is my concern, and when I was president several years ago, that's what I recommended, and I know Christine Bardo, the president now, would rather have the teachers ask away, and then the PTO having the vote of saying maybe not. Maybe we can't do it. But I just want to put it out there that teachers should be asking for the moon, and then we say no.
Right, and teachers should be going to the principal first.
Okay, however, and then to the PTO, because
Yeah.
we really don't want students paying out of pocket if the PTO can afford it. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Madam Chair, can't some of the ESSER money be used for that? It's certainly consistent with the goals.
We'd have to look at allowable
too
expenses,
much.
and what we tend to do is, I'm sure we could, reason, but we usually contact our DESI representative to see if some of these expenses, like everything you saw tonight, has been approved, right? So we certainly are flexible with the grant. We also have other funds, such as like the laundry bin, right? We have people that make donations of clothing. That's something, or the principals have a fund that can be used for some things, and I'm so happy to hear that the PTO has been so supportive. But I think what I hear Mrs. Gomes saying is that you'd like us to go back
Yes.
on this.
And I will talk to Mrs. Vardo as well.
Okay, you'd
To
like us
see.
to go back and see if we can get it no fee.
Right.
And this seems like this is like their end of the year field trip.
And this has
the
been a
fourth
tradition
grade.
for years, at least 10 years that I can remember, that the fourth grade goes to Mystic Aquarium, and we had to stop it because of COVID. So there's been years for the fourth grade, for every grade gets $1,400 a year for their field trip. So for 2 years, there were no field trips.
Right.
So that's accumulated $2,800. And that's where I can see that the transportation comes into play.
Yeah.
Or it's 2628. However, the additional 1590, with all the fundraising that we still did, and we weren't spending any money in the PTO, this might be an excellent case to go to their budget committee and the PTO to get the increase for fourth grade. Since
Well, we
can
appreciate that. We have no
restart
problem
that.
going back.
Please,
and
at least
taking care
try.
of this. Absolutely. And like I said, I want to reiterate, nobody's going to go without.
No, absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
That's my main purpose,
nobody.
plus not hindering any of this trip, because it's opened such doors with youngsters.
That's right.
Field trips. I mean, it's-
And it's a tradition.
The beluga whales.
So we will, Dr. Bailey will look into that along with building principals, but what we need to vote on here is just for
sure.
the field trip to happen.
That's right.
So,
Sorry.
if I can make a motion, no, that's great.
Motion's been made.
Okay, second, okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, so you have approval for the
That
field
was my
trip?
quick report tonight.
Great.
Sorry.
No, that's good, and I'm really glad that we found that out, and I know Dr. Bailey will work her magic on that one and make
Yeah,
sure
one
that.
thing that I do want to quickly bring up, and if this goes longer, then we certainly put it on another agenda, but Mrs. Gomes, when you talked about, the fees, one of the things that was brought up by the committee a couple of years ago is you did not want supply lists for the students. And we ended up getting a lot of pushback from families upset that families wanted to go out and buy supplies with their kids at the beginning of the year.
Oh.
So what I said would be a great compromise is, the principals have to really check those lists. They cannot be anything,
I mean, you spend
computers and-
$230, and then you come to
That's what I
find
mean.
out that
No,
the kids
it's
just have like
gotta be
9,000 crayons, we'll give it to
Maybe a red
them.
notebook, a yellow folder.
Yeah.
A couple of pens, pencils, but
Make sure it's needed.
I think it's a nice tradition
It is.
for families to go out and get that school shopping done. And of course, we would provide anything that anyone didn't come to school with anyway. So if it's okay with the committee, we don't need a vote on this, but we'd like to try with a very reduced list, compared to what it was a few years back, to meet everyone's needs, if that's okay with the committee.
I think that's fine.
Yeah, I think that's
Okay.
fine. I think just making sure the lists are the accurate
Manageable.
lists.
The
right,
principals are
and what
charged
is
to
truly
make sure
needed.
that those lists are reasonable and absolutely.
And
It's a
what's
whole
truly needed
experience
by
for
the teachers,
student
right?
To do the school shopping, I guess, so.
Right.
Thank you so much, and I will turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, we're going to move on to Mrs. Flynn with your report.
Okay, I have a quick update, my typical update. First on the agenda is the budget update. So you have the budget update to the school committee, this sheet that lists all of our anticipated surpluses and deficits. Right now, these are our major accounts. Salaries, we've had a lot of movement in salaries as we've discussed with a lot of the positions that have been open, positions that haven't been filled. We've had a lot of more movement this year than in most years. So you can see the anticipated balance in the overall salary account. High school tuition, we have a small deficit. Also school choice, out-of-district tuition, so we've got some deficits in tuitions offset by surpluses in salaries. Out-of-district transportation, there's also a pretty good balance of about $300,000 that we are anticipating closing the year with. We have some deficits in technology, health services, and facilities. So that's the trend over the past couple of years. You can see our electricity and our oil deficit, and certainly that's something that you heard about during the ESSER 3 presentation, and we do have some funds to help address that in next year's budget. So we've considered that in next year's budget as well. So currently looking at those major accounts, again, salaries, tuition, transportation, technology, health services, and facilities. I'm anticipating that we're going to be rounding out the year right now with a balance of about $400,000. So I know we have some projects that we are going to be addressing, so we'll certainly hear more about those as time goes on. Does anybody have any questions about the budget update?
No, thank you.
Real quick, school lunch update, there's a couple of things. As you know, during the pandemic, the U.S. Department of Agriculture authorized free school lunch and breakfast for all students. So all students, regardless of eligibility, have been receiving free school meals. That is ending currently on the federal level at the end of this school year, so students will have to go back to applying to be eligible for those benefits. However, there is something out in the Massachusetts House of Representatives that may change that, so we will continue to update that. And also, we were also approved last school year for pandemic EBT benefits, so students who were qualified for free and reduced price meals during the pandemic. And they would be qualified because there's a state match, so you didn't necessarily have to apply. We can still send our student information to, it's called the Gateway Program, and that will let us know what students are free and reduced eligible. So you don't have to apply, you can be automatically made eligible through the state match system. Or students can apply. But those students, those families who are eligible for free and reduced price meals will get money added to their EBT cards that they already have or that they received as a result of this program. So that's going to start, and it will be retroactive to August 2021. So the district's going to be putting out some communication to families to let them know if you are not already, if you don't know if you're eligible, go ahead and fill out an application. And then those families, if they are eligible either through the Gateway system, like I described, or through the application system, they will be made eligible for the pandemic EBT benefits. So that's a benefit for families at this time. So that's just something just to watch out for. Also, you saw a little bit of it on the PBIS presentation. You heard some students at Ford Middle School a couple months ago who had participated in some school nutrition programs as a result of their PBIS awards. This month, they did cookie decorating at AES. I think there were some slides on that. So school nutrition has been participating now in both schools with their PBIS activities. And also, we have had a FMS After School Cooking Club. It's in our second session now. I've popped in on it a couple of times. The students were making pizzas, they were making chocolate chip cookies, I believe pancakes, and then they did a like an edible arrangements thing one day. So it's really kind of fun for them, and it's pretty neat. So
My daughter loves it.
yeah.
She loves it.
That's good. I know. I was a little disappointed they didn't offer me a taste test of the chocolate chip cookies, but you know, maybe next time. So I can't blame them for wanting them all to themselves, because I would have too. So that's it for school nutrition. Quick facilities update. Just general ongoing maintenance and repairs. You know, getting the equipment ready for summer. Also, you know, we've had some storm damage to the roof. That's typical. The shed overhead doors were installed. You can see that the DPW started the central office parking area, and just a lot of just routine stuff. Right now, we are once again down 2 people on our custodial staff, so we have 2 of our, I believe, 7 custodians. We are down 2 people right now, so we are actively looking to fill those positions. So that's all I have for my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Flynn. All right, and are there any reports or updates from school committee members?
I just have a comment.
Sure.
Just one question. Okay, you had budget. Are you going to mention the school lunch update?
We just did that.
The question I have is that the state, the federal is going to be cutting back on the reimbursement on school lunches. Is that true? Have you heard?
The only thing right now that I know for sure is that there'll no longer be universal eligibility as of next year. So right now, all students, regardless of eligibility, can come in and have school lunch and school breakfast without paying it. So what I have not heard, Mr. Howcroft, yet is whether the amount per meal that is reimbursed, because we get reimbursed a certain amount per free meal, a certain amount per reduced meal, and a certain amount per paid lunch meal. So right now, we're just getting reimbursed at the free rate for every meal we provide. So I guess next year, when it goes back to normal times where we get the free reimbursement for only those qualify for free, the reduced reimbursement for only those qualify for reduced, and the paid reimbursement for those who don't qualify, yes, you will see our federal reimbursements and our state reimbursements go down, because right now, every meal we provide,
whether we revisit our budget as far as
so because every meal we provide, we're getting that higher
okay,
free
so it could be a budget
reimbursement.
item in the future.
Right. The school lunch program right now is a standalone program. It runs by itself, so it doesn't affect the local budget, but it also, on the flip side, it has to be able to sustain itself, right? So it has to be able to provide for the food and labor costs, equipment costs, and the majority of the revenue is through the reimbursement. That's why it was so very important during the pandemic that we provided meals, not only so that people would have them that needed them, but also so that we could keep our program running, because we weren't getting that when the kids weren't in school, or when we had only half of the kids in school at the time, we weren't getting the sales of the lunches. And so in order to bring in any money, we really had to increase our numbers, because you can only get reimbursed on meals that you serve. So
there is a move for the state to assume those costs.
Yes.
But it hasn't been decided
yet.
Thank
So
you.
yes, you're welcome.
Just a quick thing. I've noticed a lot of people, and this is over the past years, still call this the FMS library. And I think there should be a major effort for everyone to call it the John Tavaz Library. I know we talk about it and we say John Tavaz Library, but everybody still calls it the FMS Library. And so I think we should really make an effort to call it the John Tavaz and really get that going for future, if we could.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's well deserving.
Yeah, and
Good
we
point.
want to be really respectful of anything that's named. So I will definitely pass that along, and we'll see what we can do about messaging. That, not a problem at all.
And I know a lot of people don't know about him, so.
Right, and they should repeat this, why we name the library after him.
That's right.
Oh, maybe not.
All right. Thank
Increases
you.
our
Thank
sense
you
of
for bringing that up,
vigilance.
Sarah.
That's great, thank you.
It's a really good reminder. Thank you. There are some communications noted there within our packets. We do have executive session tonight. We will not be returning. So if I could have a motion, please, to adjourn this part of our meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 You need a roll call?
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Mrs. Gomes?
Yes.
Mr. Tevz?
Yes.
Mr. Hood?
Yes.
Mr. Hopper?
Yes.
And Mrs. Downing?
Yes. And I just want to note that our next school committee meeting will be held here in the John Tavares Library on Tuesday, May 10th at 5:30. Thank you.
Good job.